left, but we'll ask for any public comment we need to make. Some speakers. Jane, I hope we appreciate you being here tonight. I don't think you've ever made one of our meetings, have you?
No, I figure 1 or 2 town meetings a week is about all it's ranking, and I didn't miss the Perryville work session to be here. So.
Vince, right. We appreciate you being here tonight too, Vince. This was really, this was quite, this is some of the things that Calvin's been telling us about to be prepared for. We weren't prepared really for something like this to come up at this time, but I think it's an excellent learning opportunity for us going forward here. Quiet now.
Sorry.
Anything under old business? One thing I'd like to bring up.
Bring the meeting back to order.
Well, officially the meeting's back in order now. Recess is over. But real quickly on old business, the only thing I can think of is the sign down at the Clean Enterprises. I think all the work we put in on that really helped the owner down there. It looks good. It really tightened up that top wire. One thing Mr. Fisher brought up was that 25-mile-an-hour sign down there does need to move, because when you're going this way, it really takes away from their sign down. But I think they did a really nice job on that. And it's a real eye catcher.
Have we heard back?
Yeah.
We've already heard back on that, actually, Mr. Chairman. I'll refer to Mr. Bonenberg.
The police chief reached out to State Highway, and they said that the sign is installed following state guidelines, and they will not move it.
Really?
And it's essentially, what I'm reading is it's essentially where the state wants it to be.
It's a shame.
I'll find out whether that's true or not.
Because unfortunately,
Well, it came
you
from the
can't,
police chief.
Well,
you can't see it
Out to the state.
on this way.
there are ways to change things.
I believe that it's,
Well,
I believe what you mean to say.
hold on. I guess what I'm asking you about is the way it came across. The police chief is our guy. He contacted the state. If you want to find another recourse to get another answer, fine.
I will.
To say that it's, whether it's correct or truthful or not, is, I just want to go on.
That was the point
Well,
I
that's
wanted to
like-
make.
Yeah.
It's a good looking sign,
Yeah.
regardless of what's going on. I think it's some of
Don't need to be hidden.
the old, the only old business that we really had. I missed a couple of meetings.
Wait. That was all taken into consideration when they applied for that sign. How long has that 25-mile-an-hour sign been there?
Yeah, it was-
Several-
it was
several
there-
years.
There before their other, when their other signs.
It's not the town's fault, nor the state highway's fault, nor the chief of police fault that that sign happens to be there.
Well, when conditions change, we change things. We're not solid in concrete, I don't think. I mean, I think there's a reasonable argument to be made.
Well,
You don't work for the state, correct? You didn't put the sign there.
Well, I
The
think,
point- I think
let me just say, certainly there's an argument to be made, reasonable or not, there's an argument you can make.
Well, I don't want to get off track here because it's 9:45 already. Basically, what I wanted to say was we did good work on that sign
Absolutely.
to help that gentleman with his business. The speed limit sign is collateral damage that can be dealt with, other than, it's not going to get dealt with tonight. But I think all the work and all the detail that we asked for was well executed there. The property owner's happy, it looks good. It's starting to be consistent with other signs in town, so and it's the way things are going. So has anybody else got anything on the old business? We have any new business other than the upcoming holiday, and our next meeting's not scheduled for until January.
January, what would the date be, sir?
I think the world ends Friday, so I don't think we're going to worry about it.
Next meeting probably falls on MLK Day, doesn't it?
Oh, it might, no, that's the.
It would be the fourth, it's the fourth Monday.
And
so-
okay, the
Oh.
third
Third,
Monday.
yeah. So I would think it would be the Monday after that.
21st?
So
That would,
one thing I'd like to say is
that would
that
have to be
we look
on
forward
the
to
first.
Calvin giving us an update between now and then
Between the
as
22nd and
to
28th.
what they bring you from Ace Hardware. Jane, do you or Mr. Fisher have any comment?
I do.
Vince? I almost forget about you
Oh,
over
no,
there.
sorry.
The 28th.
I had just a couple questions. One is just kind of like point of law type of thing. When someone's up here trying to get a variance like the other gentleman was up here, and he addresses you and gives you some type, verbally comes out all the things you're looking for, is that suitable, or is it got to be submitted in writing on?
Well, first and foremost, we need the proper application filed. That was one of the discussions we had with these gentlemen. The application was incomplete. And we were trying to work with them, because of their business. First and foremost, the application's got to be complete. If that application's complete up front, it usually will
Alleviate these
alleviate a
questions.
lot of those
Right.
questions that we have to, in that fine tooth comb we have to go through and on. And then determine, do they need a special exception, or are they looking for variance? Because those seem to be the majority of cases we've had,
Mhm.
and then you have to examine.
I'm curious how that worked, if he was able to articulate it, even though it was incomplete, would that be acceptable typically, or would he still have to submit, read the
It is,
application? Or?
I mean, it is part of the record,
Okay.
so.
It's part of what we do as far as trying to get those questions answered,
Right.
if they're not.
It technically is acceptable.
Okay, that's all,
But,
I was wondering how that worked, that's all. And the other thing is, do you guys have sign ordinances on the books?
We do, it's,
Oh, we
it's
do.
really poor, we worked on a new
Well, I
one.
just wondered how they got away with the, the plywood spray paint
Because
sign
it's
after
actually
so
not
long.
addressed.
Yeah.
It's
The-
temporary, it's not permanent.
Yeah,
Oh.
our sign ordinance right now, as it stands, is really pathetic. We spent some time.
There's other signage I could also
Right.
critique as well, other than that one.
Well,
But-
it's one of those things, like I said, I reached out to him and say, hey, it's the ordinance, we've worked on that in the past and got sidetracked because it's very time consuming. So a lot of times it's just as easy, to do like you just said, say, hey, it looks kind of tacky. He agreed and.
Right, well, it's a good time to do it too.
Yeah.
Right.
So sometimes it's just as easy as something like that.
Right.
Because our sign ordinance does need upgrading, and as you see, signs are starting to change in town.
Is that actively being worked on then? with
We
you guys?
worked on one and it wound up, it went through, it had some issues and then.
So we need to kind of
Still
regroup
working
on
on
it. It
Yeah.
takes a lot, we meet once a month, we don't get paid, we have to take
Right.
time out from our own jobs and families to do this, and,
I'm not
But
criticizing, I
we
was just wondering. if
did
it worked
get a
it,
start on it, though. We did
Yeah.
get a start.
well, in the past couple of meetings I've missed, you guys started on that again.
We did,
Right.
yeah.
Because, and that, it's one of those things we're finding, just like with this ordinance, it wasn't there. In the past, it wasn't there, and we've kind of had tunnel vision as to what other things we needed, and this one kind of blindsided us.
We're planning to start attending your P and Z meetings more often too, sorry for not in the past.
It's okay.
I live across the street from the Ace
Thanks.
Hardware. Perhaps you could kill two birds with one stone by having him take his guns and ammo sign and put it up where the old Acme sign used to be, this paint over with the tacky brown primer coat, since
The one on the pedestal?
we have on the pedestal that just looks so urban blight. I mean, make him
I'll
put a
talk to
real
him.
sign there and light it up and.
And I see
do
you got
right thing.
the conduit running across the top of the parking lot. I noticed that today for the electric.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I think, I may be wrong, but the gentleman seems like he's got a nice business there. He wants to make it a staple, and, as we lose one business in town, we need to work with the other business to help them, to stay in town, and hopefully, that store's so crowded now, it's hard to, I go in there all the time, and I still can't remember where stuff is.
Oh, I know where everything
Mr.
Frequent
Chairman, I make
flyer
a
is.
motion.
I am a frequent flyer, yes.
Yes, Callie?
Yeah, the only thing I want to add before you do that.
Go ahead.
There was an issue, they did apply for a sign like 2 or 3 years ago, and we get jammed up with our sign ordinance and then exceed the minimum number of signs permitted on the building. So they did not pursue it. So there's another example of our zoning ordinance sort of working against hypothetically businesses. The other thing is Sunoco is another applicant who I've sort of been putting off so they don't get caught up in this having to pay to come before the planning and zoning board. They want to turn their sign into an electronic sign. And here again, they're over the minimum square footage and they're gonna get caught up in having to come before us. So I've been talking to them about if they can wait. We are working on a new sign ordinance.
I've heard a rumor that they were gonna tear that building down and rebuild a newer, more modern store, or is that just rumor?
They came in probably about 3 years ago and talked to me about a variety of different things. There have been some rumblings that they wanted to do, but it's never been any more than just concept.
Not to drag this meeting out anymore, but you ever been contacted, the owners of Spicer Cycle about what may be happening down there? I know the owner suffered a stroke a while back and,
No, I've had other people inquire about what could
yeah,
go down there.
it's a big piece of building there.
Yeah.
For your information, that sign down at the laundromat will stay.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that sign issue down there, Bob, we can bring that up another time, because I'm in somewhat of agreement with you. It does take away from his sign, but we're not gonna solve that tonight, but you make a motion
Do we adjourn?
Second.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
You all have a pleasant